Hello everyone, this is Just a Dad. Have you ever wondered what a Keurig K-Supreme looks like on the inside? Well, I bought a used one off of eBay and I took it apart. So surprisingly, the shell does come off relatively easy. On the bottom of the machine, there's 3 screws, so take this out. There's a screw right there. And then underneath, there's a rubber peg here and a rubber peg here. Underneath each one of those is a screw. And then in these slots right here, like right here, right here, right here, right here, that's what these things attach. So if you put your screwdriver in there and unattach those, there's a little hook that they attach onto. You can pull this out from the top. And same with the back. There's some right there and right there. There's a little hook. There's Miss Fiona. Okay, so I don't recommend powering this up with the cover off. There is electricity back here, and you could get electrocuted. I just want to show you for demonstration purposes. I was just curious of how this thing worked. So I took one apart and I'm going to show you. So the first thing I wanted to see is, how does this thing sense low water? And I think I figured it out. So when you put the water reservoir on, there's 2 tubes that come off the bottom of this. This is what one looks like that was broke that I took apart. So there's 2 tubes coming off and they go to this little box right here. Now that's not the water sensor. It's over here on the other side. And you can see it, there's a red and a green wire to little there's a box in there that those tubes go to. Okay, so here's that box as it's installed right there. So you've got one of those tubes goes to here and one of them goes to here. This is your water level indicator. So when water drops below, that there can't be continuity between these 2 wires, you'll get the add water light. Now you're going to ask, how does it know, how does the water get up there? Well, if you watch, when I've got water in the tank and when I put the tank in, I don't know if you can see, but we can see that water rise in that box. As soon as I put the tank on, it goes to the exact same level that's in the tank. So when the water in the tank goes down, the water in that box also goes down, because the other end of this is just connected to a vent. If you follow this one up here, this goes to the top of that box, and that's just a vent. So it will allow the water to go up inside that box. So there's your add water light, and that's why it comes on when there's like water like to right here, because that box is positioned like right about there inside. So when the water gets down to about there, your add water light comes on. And the reason I picked the K-Supreme is because even though this is the K-Supreme Plus Smart and this is the K-Slim, I think these are all relatively have the same internal components because they all operate about the same way. You put them in, they sound the same, they're about the same speed. So I'm pretty sure inside they're pretty close to being the same. So I've got it unplugged right now, but here we've got your control board. And then we've got an air pump. The air pump kicks on towards the end to kind of shoot the rest of the water out. And then here's your normal water pump. It's very quiet. And then if we turn it around, this is the heating element. This thing is very tall. It's a very tall heating element. The water wraps around and the center of it's the actual heating element. But the water wraps around it. Here I've got a heating element that is out of another machine. Again, the water comes in. The center of it is the heating element. You've got electricity going here to here. And then the water comes out. Now this is your over temperature thermostat. This is what fails on most Keurigs, because if your water pump stops, this heating element doesn't have anything to cool it. So the heating element heats up, and when this thing reaches a certain temperature, I think it's like 200 degrees or something, it opens up and you can't get power to the Keurig anymore. It's non-resettable, and that's usually what goes wrong with your machine. Because that's what happened on this one. The one that I took apart that this came out of, the water pump must have stopped, it overheated, and that opened up. So when we descale, that's what we're descaling. This is an aluminum heating element, and that tube just wraps all the way around this, okay? And when we send that descaling solution through here, It's going through here and it's cleaning that aluminum tubing. Now, typically we don't get too much calcium buildup in the plastic, although I do see some on this. So it will help clean some of that. So the water comes up through the reservoir up, and again, there's the box is positioned behind here. So, and again, this is just for, no, I'm sorry, like this. This is just for water level. This is, I'm not sure what that sensor does, but the water comes up and it goes out. And when it comes out, it goes, that's the suction to the water pump. That's this line right here. Your water pump turns on, pushes the water out the bottom at a pressure. Comes over to this side, it goes to this T. And then this T is where the air pump kicks on. So the air pump kicks, it ties into the water right here. The water keeps going and it goes into the bottom of the heating element. It gets heated, it's going to come out the top. So if we can see, there's another tube connected at the top. And again, that's that tube coming out. After it comes out of the top, it goes right to this point right here. No, I'm sorry. It goes to the bottom. It goes to the bottom of this like manifold, if we can see. It goes to the very bottom of that manifold. So then it comes up from the manifold. There's another sensor. Looks like almost an identical sensor we had before in that manifold. This is the output to the brew head. This is like an overpressure relief valve. So here I've got that same piece, and this is just a vent, this tube right here. But if we open it up, it's like a overpressure relief. So if pressure builds up in there too much, it's just going to vent it to the outside. And if we look, this pipe is vented right there. So if you ever see steam coming out right in here, that means it's kind of overpressurized. And again, so the water comes in the bottom, there's a sensor. It goes out to the brew head on this one, but there's this little bitty line that was really interesting to me. So this little bitty line, follow it, it goes to the back of the control board. So there's the control board. And if we look at the back, there's that little tube connects right there. And that's called a pressure sensor. Pressure probe, I'm sorry. So I'm not sure what that component is, but that's what it connects to. So basically it's going to just kind of sense whenever there's pressure in that line. Yeah, like that. So then it gets even more interesting. It comes out. This is where it's going to go to the brew head. And we can see it's right there. And it goes, there's that line that goes to the brew head. So here I have a brew head that I took apart. Okay, and I took the needle. This is the 5 needles. It's kind of tucked down in there. And I took those 2 screws out. That's where that tube connects. And there's no zip tie or anything. It's just held on there. But it kind of goes to this manifold. And then this manifold comes up. And we can see that it feeds all 5 needles from that one tube. So all 5 needles are going to get the same pressure, it looks like. But what I found interesting was this little flap. Now, I'm not sure what purpose this flap serves, but it opens up to that port. But it gets closed whenever. So here's that flap on a working machine. But when you close the handle, this part that part's going to come down and rest against this, and it's going to be held in place. So maybe it's just to let stuff drain out of there when it's up. Maybe that's it. Not sure, but when we close that. So yeah, here I've got it on this one that I've got it out. And I can see, so there's what the needle looks like. But when it opens up, yeah, there's a flap. Sorry, so there's a flap. That flap gets held closed. Let me open it up just a little bit if you can see. So right in there is where that flap is, and it gets held closed. So it is held closed when the head is down. So something else. So there's that micro switch So you'll hear whenever you're, see when you open the handle, hear that micro switch? Let's take that out. That's right there. So it's you can hear it. As soon as you lift the handle, you can hear that micro switch. There's two little wires that go over to this micro switch so that the Keurig won't work unless the handle is all the way down. If it's barely up, it's not going to work. So most of these hinge pieces, they're kind of a hard plastic, but they're pretty much all plastic. So you can definitely break something in there. So there you have it. I'm going to plug this in, put a K-cup in, and we'll kind of watch what happens. Okay, so let's put a K-cup in. Again, this one's all assembled. I just took the covers off. Do 8 ounce. Okay, so it has started. It's really quiet. This pump is running, but it's just so quiet. And I can see some water moving in there. There's that line going to the back of the circuit card. And then towards the end, that air pump's going to kick on. But right now, there's just some water kind of coming back in it. And that heating element's heating up. It's getting really hot back there. So that last little bit is an actual air pump. So there I hear the air pump kicked on. So it does kind of it kind of cleans out that tubing. You know, at least from that tea, it cleans it out all the way to the brew head. So you're not left with a bunch of water in that line. But you do have some water in the lines from here to the pump and from the pump to that tea. Yeah, and this is like the ribbon cable that goes for the control panel. It plugs into the top of the control board. And there's kind of the magic, the behind the scenes of the Keurig K-Supreme. Again, I think this K-Supreme, I bet if I opened up a K-Slim, I bet it would be very, very close. I bet it would have the same heating element, maybe a different circuit card or something, but these all, I've got the K-Supreme Smart, I've got the Plus, the K-Supreme, and this, and even some of the other ones kind of act really, this is kind of their new way of doing things. They don't have a big tank in there that holds the water and they heat up and then they shoot it out. They're heating it up as they're pumping it, which is kind of new technology, and it works really well. And here's what the water pump looks like. Liquid pump. There's some numbers on it. I did see that some of the tubing does have zip ties on it. You know, this was a well-used Keurig machine, and the tubing I didn't see any mold on the inside or anything. The only thing I did see is at the top of the heating element, there was a little bit of calcium buildup starting, you know. And even inside this, I can still start to see a little bit of calcium buildup. I am going to cut this open, and I'm going to use this for my demonstration purposes when I do descaling videos. Again, this, I didn't see any kind of mold or anything in here. Here's the air pump. It says mini pump, 12 volts. And it goes to that T. Just a very simple, this is probably the loudest part of the whole machine is when that kicked on. I couldn't even hear the water pump or when the water was boiling. There's this connector on the side. I'm not sure. That's how it must be get its power. Circuit card. It's got the really nice logo, Keurig Dr. Pepper. If you've ever wondered, there's like a test connection. So I think when these circuit cards are installed, like that circuit card, see that test connection right there? You ever notice on Keurigs, there's like this little access panel. So if you take that access panel off, you can deep down in there, you'll access that connection I just showed you. So I think during the factory, when they're producing these, they must have a machine that plugs into that just to make sure everything's kind of working okay. It probably runs some diagnostics. So that's what that little port is there. That's right there. It plugs in, and I'm sure they can run some diagnostics on that. So thanks everybody for watching. If you could, please like and subscribe.